So I bought other PlayStation 5s that were in a house fire, but nothing compared to this. Let me show you. This one is next level. Firstly, we have the top cover, and it is completely melted along the edges. It's really like, I think it might be still functional, but this is pretty bad, but it gets way worse. This thing is just totally melted. Let's take a look at the bottom here. Okay, and that bottom side is definitely melted, not as bad. Look at this though. Wow, that is just totally charred. So obviously this thing is broken, but we're gonna find out today if I can fix it. There we go. This is the first time I've seen a fan like this. We've got blades here and blades here. That's cool. And it actually, I mean, as far as I can tell, the fan might be functional. This is a PS5 from the UK, so that could be, you know, we might see some changes because of that. And that screw does not turn. Let's see if it comes out. Oh yeah, it'll come off with that screw in there. Okay, so this, wow, it's just completely melted. That screw is totally bent. I wonder, one thing that would actually be really cool is if we could fix this thing and put it together in the same case. I don't know if that's even possible. It's in pretty bad shape, but let's just see if we might happen to be able to do that. Oh man, so this was just torn off the board. That's a bummer. I mean, we can fix it, but that was just kind of from a careless teardown. Oh, we'll worry about that later. Now the disk drive can come out, and we'll have to take this apart to look at the inside. The outside doesn't look too bad, actually, so maybe some hope there. I don't know, do we dare send this over to Robert at Restorish? He's working on a big cleaning project right now, so he might get angry at me if I try to send this down. Okay. Yeah, so this is one of the newer revisions. That plate looks fine. And actually the board underneath here, that doesn't look bad so far. Okay, here we go. And I can't believe there's not more damage on this board. We definitely have some liquid metal we got to worry about. We got to get this all cleaned up. Other than that, I think that's probably from shipping since it wasn't clamped down. I got a bunch on here too. Let's tear this down to the power supply because we got to inspect that. And our heatsink. The screws have been taken out of this. Normally this would be attached to that over that last plate I took off. The heatsink definitely needs some cleaning. Got lots going on there. Okay, now let's have a look at this power supply. And initially, I mean, the plug is just destroyed, just totally melted. And this kind of thing, I wouldn't want to just kind of break this melted plastic off and then sell it or anything. If I do that to keep it in this shape and kind of melted shape, I would just probably just keep it around the office because that could create a danger there. But just from the outside, this power supply looks okay. And then we obviously have lots going on in here, lots of things that need to be cleaned. So the other option we have with this is I could replace the main shell and then just clean up this top plate really well and try and use this top plate on the new shell. That also could be a really cool look because then the internals would still be in good condition and it'd be easy to put together and make sure everything works properly, but then you'd still have kind of like the burned look from this top plate. Unfortunately, the seller didn't have the bottom plate. I think they said it was too damaged and they threw it away, but this could make a really cool look. So I think even if we can't do the whole thing, I think we could at least use this for that. So I guess we might as well start at the power supply. I'm gonna try and chip away some of this burned plastic. And then I'll plug it in and see if we even get voltage out of this power supply. Now I'm going to clean these pins off with some isopropyl alcohol. Okay, got that IPA dried. All right, hopefully nothing explodes. Here we go. Good so far. Let's see what we get on these output pins. And we get 12 volts. this power supply, at least just out on its own, works fine. Sometimes power supplies can fail under load, so that's always a possibility, but at least so far it looks good. Like I said, if I decide to sell this, I will either replace this outer piece right here or just replace the entire power supply just to be safe. But I might just have to keep this one. It'd be a good studio piece. Now next, let's have a look at this disk drive and see if there's any liquid damage on the inside or fire damage. I haven't seen much liquid damage on this console so far, so I'm hopeful that we don't have any of that. There may be a little bit on the board, but we'll get to that in a minute too. Okay, now we can get that out and have a look on the inside. Actually, I can't believe how good this looks. We do have one. This has some major melting right over here. This PS5 must have gotten really hot. And, oh yeah. Wow, look at that, so wavy. So much melting going on in here. I'm not sure this disk drive is gonna be savable. That just looks crazy. So the main thing is we need to be able to save this daughter board because this is paired to the motherboard. Luckily, it looks like, from what I can tell, it looks like it's fine. But we'll have to clean this up and just double check that. But I was hopeful on this, but man, this is just totally melted. Okay, and here we go. Yep, more, well, sort of more melting. This is a part, this is the same pieces on the other side. It looks like the laser itself, the laser carrier and everything, that all looks fine. This screw is definitely, the screw post is melted, same with that one. They're kind of angled funny. Yeah, that doesn't work. So this whole entire drive is toast. I think the laser probably is usable. Same with like this spindle and a few other parts. So there's definitely good parts in here, but overall, it is not in great shape. There we go. And I will write that this is the original just so we don't get it confused if we get another disk drive in here. I've done that more than once. Okay, now let's have a little closer look at this board. I don't know how hot this thing got, but it got pretty warm judging by how much stuff is melted. I haven't seen anywhere so far on the actual board that's melted, because if it would have gotten that hot, then these plastic pieces would be melted, just a lot more would be melted. So I'm not too worried about that. These ports need to be cleaned. Use my dental pick here. Get as much of the chunky stuff out as I can. And then I'll come with a toothbrush and some isopropyl alcohol and clean it out more. Same with this USB port over here. Now the toothbrush with the isopropyl alcohol. That actually looks a lot better. I think that might be just fine. We need to do that with all the rest of these ports and get all the rest of this stuff cleaned out that we can. These ports actually turned out pretty good. Let's get this liquid metal cleaned up off of here. That's not gonna work to have that on here for sure. I keep getting more out from under this kind of shield right here, and that's a little worrisome because if it got under this BGA chip, the APU, that could be a problem, especially if somebody tried to turn it on with that under there. So I think what I'm gonna do is use some BW100 and try and spray it out. It'll go to another part of the board, but I don't really care about that. I just need to make sure it's out of underneath the APU or right around it anyway. Yes, that worked great. Oh, got some more down here. We have to make sure every bit of this is off because if there's little balls of liquid metal rolling around, they could touch two of the wrong points and just short something out. And that could short out the entire board and make it not work. So it's essential that we get every bit of this off of the board. Okay, and what do you know? More cleaning to do. This stuff's coming up really not too bad though. So gonna give it a nice soak and then clean it off with some cotton swab and paper towel. When I first saw this PS5, I was not sure that I was going to be able to fix this one. And I didn't have a lot of hope at first looking at the melted plastic on the outside, but man, looking at this board, I think it's possibly doable. Okay, I think that's about the perfect amount of scrubbing and cleaning on this part. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good, especially compared to what we started with. Now, I think the next thing we need to do is get this fan connector fixed. Now, luckily we do have the old one, so we don't need to steal it off of a different PS5. It does come off, it's not melted. Got a bunch of the traces that are still stuck on this one, but that doesn't really matter. We're gonna need to rebuild those. So let's get that done next, and then we will move on. So for this repair, I'm gonna try something I have not done before, and that is, since we do have these pads that go onto the board that fit perfectly, I'm gonna try and remove them from here, install them back onto the board, probably glue them down, and then I will need to create a solder connection from this part of the pad to this part of the pad. And then we also need to do the same thing with this middle pad right here. Put this back and then glue it down. And then we'll try and solder it all together and see what happens. I've never done this before, so this should be interesting. First thing we need to do though is remove these pads from this connector, and then we can try and install them onto the board. So to do that, I'm gonna use my Hakko Omnivice. I'm gonna set it up like this, so it's in approximately the same orientation. And then we'll put this inside and clamp it down. That way I can be using two of my hands to do the work with the iron and my tweezers. So what I want to do is heat this from the bottom side just enough to lift it, and then hopefully I will be able to install it back onto the board. Come on. I also don't want to melt the plastic, so hopefully this will work. Might need to put some flux on here just to... Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, that worked okay. So that would go right there. All right, this will be a tricky one. Let's see if I can get you focused in here. This will be a tricky one because it's got both of these pads right here. I kind of need to heat them both at the same time. There we go. Okay, there's that one. And now this one. Come on. And there we go. Okay. Let's get out the super glue and see what we can do. So first what we need is the tiniest drop. Actually, I'm going to put some on this paper towel. Just nab a little bit with my dental pick, get it on the board. Okay. Should be enough for this first one. Okay, that actually seems pretty good. Just need a tiny bit on each of these, so just gonna hold some pressure on this with one hand while we get some more super glue with the other one. And we're gonna glue on this next mounting pin right over here. Looking good so far. Now we need to do the one with two legs. We need to be able to hold both of these legs down kind of at the same time to make sure they get in the right place. Now I just need to sit here and watch glue dry for a little while. Ah, the exciting life of a YouTuber. And now all of our super glue is nice and dry. So I'm going to take my grinding pen and grind off some of the solder mask around the edges, so then we can solder all of the pads fully together and fully onto the circuit they need to be soldered to. For example, this one right here, we need to grind off all of this green solder mask, and then we can use some solder to connect those two planes. So we'll start right over here. Okay, so we need to solder anywhere that you see the copper, so we're going to solder all of this. I did grind off some of these places where these circuit traces were bent, because that can cause like a crack in the copper, so I'm just going to put some solder on those just to make sure that these traces are nice and strong. So now I'm going to flux this all up, then we'll get the solder applied, then we'll do more solder mask, and then we'll finally install the connector. All right, and here we go. Okay, not pretty, but good. So I need to clean that off. Just use some isopropyl alcohol. And it needs to be nice and clean in order for any of the solder mask to stick. I'm actually tempted to solder the connector on first. I think I might do that. I'm going to solder the connector on first, and then we'll do the solder mask after the connector. So I'm going to line this up about where it needs to be. About right there looks pretty good. I need to make sure that there's enough of this pad back here to connect to this pin, and there is right now, so I need to keep it that way, and I think we're good to go. So I'm going to push down with my finger with this thing fully aligned and try to not burn my finger while I add solder to these pins. There we go. Okay, good there. Now this mounting pin over here. There we go. This mounting pin over here, I need to twist this just a little bit, get a better angle on it. Keep some pressure down. Oh, need to twist it. All right, now I'm gonna keep some pressure down on the connector. Oh yeah. There we go. All right, now I'm going to clean that all off, and then we will put conformal coating all around this whole thing to help strengthen it, and then we should be ready to go. Now before we cover this all up with conformal coating, let's make sure that we have connections where we need to. So this pin needs to connect with this pin, and it does. This pin with this pin, and it does. These pins, actually I think these pins are ground. Yep, good there. And then let's make sure that this pin is not connected to ground. It is not, and it is not. Okay. Now let's apply the conformal coating. I like this because it's nice and fluid, so it'll also flow under the connector, and this actually acts as an adhesive too, so it'll help keep the connector stuck down to the board. Okay, and then I'm gonna put it up so it's sort of level, and then let it dry like that. While that's drying, let's decide what to do with the case. So just looking at this shell, unfortunately, there's just no way we're going to be able to use this piece for sure. It's just too melted. There's just no way we'll be able to keep the whole PlayStation 5 together if we use this piece. So this definitely is out. And I was trying to figure out if there's a way we could still keep and use this piece, but unfortunately, I don't think we can. This part, if this was all together and not melted quite so much, I think we could. But this is just totally brittle and fragile. It's already broken. I don't think there's going to be a way that we can use any of this shell. I think what I'm going to do is use the shell from a donor console, and then we'll put the burned plates on that. So that's the plan. Let's get a donor console, and then we'll install the motherboard into that along with the disk drive board. Then we'll put the burn plates on that and see how it looks. So here we have some good liquid metal. I need to clean this up and apply a little bit more liquid metal here, and then we can install the motherboard into this donor PlayStation 5 frame. All right, now first things first, we got to get all of this old nasty liquid metal off of here. And I mostly want to remove this because it's got a bunch of debris in it. I don't know if it really shows up very well on camera, but it's not clean liquid metal. And we need to get any of this that is about to leave the sponge area. Make sure that it's not going to drip onto the board at any point. Okay, So that's looking pretty good. I think I've still got some in this syringe, but let's see. Oh, yep, there's a lot. Don't need quite that much. Okay, let's try that much. Now I'm just going to go through and just keep doing what I'm doing. Press with medium force while I rub it around the APU. And eventually, it will start sticking. Now that we have the perfect amount of liquid metal on the APU and the perfect amount of liquid metal on the heatsink, I'm going to rub this in really good over here just to make sure that there's no oxidation and we got it spread nice and evenly. And now we can install the board just like that. Okay, now we need to install the disk drive, but we have to swap this board that's matched with the motherboard into this disk drive first. There we go. And now I'm going to save this board with the donor board in case I ever get around to fixing that one. Then we will have that ready to go. This needs to be cleaned. We'll clean that afterward, I guess. Okay, I'm getting excited to see if this thing's going to work. I feel like it shouldn't work because this board was just had to have gotten so hot, but I don't know. I'm actually a little hopeful. Clean this part of the board, especially this connector. That clipped in good. Good to hear. This one feels good. Now this one is the part that we repaired. All right. That also feels good. Okay, all good so far. Now the mid-frame, and now the fan cage, and the M.2 cover, and of course the grill. Okay, I'm gonna get it plugged in. Let's see if it works after all that work. Okay, power's plugged in. HDMI cable going in now. Let's see what happens. Do we have disk drive power? We do, good news. Fan comes on. We have a black screen, but is it gonna give us anything? Oh yeah, can you believe this thing's actually working? What? So for the bottom cover, this is what I'm gonna use. This is off of another Housefire PS5 repair that I did a while back. And I put brand new plates on that one, but I did save this, and this is the perfect one for it since this one didn't come with the bottom plate. So let's get that on first. I'm so excited about this. This is gonna look so cool. I mean, hopefully. Okay, there we go on that one. Now the top one is next. This is amazing. Let's see if it fits on here. It totally does. So this is the final look of this Housefire PlayStation 5. Look at that. I think probably what we need to do at some point is like put a clear coating on this or something because it does have a bit of a smoke smell. But really, this looks super cool. If you like this type of video and want to see another video of a PlayStation 5 that was in a house fire that I tried to fix, I'll put that video up on your screen now so you can come hang out with me over there and see if I can fix that one too. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.